Hello, my name is Neil Alexander, and today I'm going to be talking about Libya's civil war and how it affects the global oil prices. So basically, since 2011, we've had a struggle for power, and now today it's basically between two sides: the GNA, which is seen here on the left, led by Prime Minister Siraj, and is officially recognized by the UN and Western nations, and the right, which is General Haftar. He is running the LNA, or the Libyan National Army, which is backed by Saudi Arabia, Russia, Egypt, and the UAE. This map kind of shows you a couple things. The peach area is controlled by Haftar, whereas the GNA runs basically the teal area and the north area around Tripoli. You can see the lines for oil fields and all the dots on the map, which are where their major oil fields are. They're mostly controlled by Haftar. And this shows where the blockades have occurred over the last week, cutting down production from 1.2 billion or 1.2 million barrels a day down to 72,000 barrels a day. To get an idea of where Libya stands with regard to the international market, the population of Libya is just 6 million people, but they're ninth in the world in reserves, oil reserves with 48 billion barrels, which is 3% of all global reserves. And in 2019, this shows how NOC, which is the most dominant oil exporter and basically the only oil exporter in Libya, produced $16 billion in 3/4 of production. Libya relies on exports. It's over 90% of its national revenue. This shows how the international markets responded. On the 19th, you see a gigantic spike in oil prices in both New York and the European markets for crude oil. It was eased a little bit under the assumption that OPEC can cover short-term shortfalls, but a prolonged disruption of Libya could be enough to swing the global oil market from a surplus to deficit in the first quarter of 2020. This is a map showing why Turkey is backing the GNA, because they have made an agreement earlier this year which gives Turkey the rights to maritime rights to drill in the red areas you see below Cyprus and just west of Israel. Cyprus claims those areas, as does Turkey, but Libya is backing Turkey's right to drill in those areas. So Turkey is backing the GNA. Russia's involvement in Libya is mainly to put pressure on the EU. The sanctions that they've had in place, they would like to have go away, since they've had them since 2014 when they intervened in Ukraine. So Putin put together the Libyan leaders and others to join them on the 19th of January. They negotiated a ceasefire. You see here is a map showing where the Wagner group, which is a mercenary group that Russia uses throughout the world in their interests. They use this group, and they did in Libya, to help combat Tripoli, sending over 300 troops and $3 billion of counterfeit money. But Putin's also close to making a $1 billion deal with the GNA, supplying wheat to Tripoli. This market was previously dominated by the Italians and the French, but now Russia's trying to get a piece of that pie, or dominate that piece of the pie. Similarly, in 2019, Putin was supporting Haftar, but the two Wagner employees were found creating a fake internet campaign supporting Gaddafi's son as for prime minister in Libya, adding a third party to the game. And this shows how Syria the Syria crisis, which was backed by Russia, moved 500,000 Syrian refugees to the EU in 2015. The concern is that this will occur again with Libya, and this was in large part why Brexit occurred for the UK, so it can really be disruptive to the European markets. So the ceasefire that was held earlier this week, few believe will actually amount to anything other than posturing, and if there is a winner, it's probably just going to be Russia. Russia has said that they will back a ceasefire as long as the EU lifts sanctions on Russia. The UAE and Saudi Arabia are also involved. They consider Haftar leaders waging war against terrorism and radical Islamic factions. So they have been backing them mainly to combat groups like the Muslim Brotherhood, which has been supporting the GNA. In 2018, Haftar began shipping oil through a non-UN approved company called Emirati Energy, which was a UAE company displaying an economical advantage to backing Haftar as well. And so the NOC, this is a picture of Haftar and NOC where the UN backs NOC as the only export company recognized. So the main backer, the European countries who buy from NOC, have been a little bit upset by the turmoil. Last time that Haftar interceded or intervened, it brought with NOC's exports, it put crude oil at $70 a barrel. So it's creating a lot of problems in the region, which can spread throughout the globe. It'll be interesting to see how the international communities move forward with crude oil and trade, and whether larger scale conflicts will arise due to conflicting interests in various nations.